Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Based on a True Story. My name is Matthew Baxter, and I just want to say we have to be quiet about this episode because it's about a secret.
Well, I'm not going to be that quiet, but welcome to the show. I'm Karen Stolzner.
Welcome to all our new ASMR listeners. I'm Blake Smith.
So yes, we're talking about The Secret because it is supposed to be based on reality. So let's.
I just realized I have a red shirt and a red chair, and like it looks like I have weird, giant neck muscles. Okay, that's my secret.
Are you saying you want to get changed, or are you happy?
Blake has gotten into powerlifting.
It looks a little weird, does it? Doesn't it look a little weird? I just noticed it. I don't know.
No, it really doesn't.
It doesn't. You just seem to have a thing.
It's different enough. I can see different shades of red.
Hold on. I got this. First of all, yay, wireless headset. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Look at that.
Nice.
Now I'm classy again, because for a second there, I was feeling a little low rent compared to you guys, but now all back. So
perfect.
It's all good.
All right. Okay. Sorry.
Perfect.
So this movie, I mean, I will venture to say that it's not a movie. It's an infomercial. I think it's the kind of thing that you'd see late at night when you can't sleep and you switch on the TV. It's certainly not in the same genre as a lot of the other films that we've watched for this series.
I looked in the credits and Ron Popeil was not anywhere.
It does serve as a sleep aid. I guess you could call it Scambian.
Yeah. But I will say that even though it's not a traditional horror film, it certainly has some horrifying aspects to it.
This is true.
Yeah, and we're going to get into just how horrifying because I have some personal experience with this movie, the claims behind it, and some people behind it as well. So this will be an interesting one.
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting about this film is that it's usually we're talking about a movie that's based on a book, but in this case, this is a movie that spurred a book. So the movie came first in 2006, and then a book came out a couple of months later. And so we're talking about Rhonda Byrne as the author of The Secret. She's also the producer of this movie and the one who, I guess, has compiled all of these speakers and these theories. And her background's in TV production, so it's not in some of the areas that other speakers in the movie have the backgrounds that they have. But it's certainly not a typical movie with a start and a beginning and an end, really, that we can talk about a plot. No plot.
But the whole thing is it's mostly talking. It's like I came off a diving board. Sorry. It's mostly talking heads though. So I think weirdly, even though I couldn't imagine seeing this in a theater, it was extremely familiar from watching YouTube. Like it's like I'd be a little annoyed if I'd paid I don't know what it was in 2006, $10 for a ticket to see that. That would have been weird.
I'll add to that it never actually came out at the movies. It was released on DVD. So it was partially funded by the Nine Network in Australia because Rhonda Byrne is Australian. My apologies. And it's the Nine Network decided once they viewed it that they weren't going to release it on television. They did eventually in 2007, but it pretty much went straight to DVD. So it's made a lot of money. The author sold about 30 million copies of the book, and I believe that the movie grossed $65 million. So
wow,
it performed really well.
It helped to have $10 in operating costs. So that gives you a lot of margin.
Yeah. So yeah, and it was really pushed by people too. I mean, it was really pushed by Oprah Winfrey and Larry King. And Rhonda Byrne was named Time Magazine's one of the top 100 most influential people in 2007. So this got a lot of publicity.
Yeah, I think my wife and I talked about this a little bit. Oprah endorsed it, And as Kathleen said, yeah, she wanted to be a popular TV host, and behold, she was already a popular TV host. So it's more like her dreams had already come true, and this was like a like after the fact endorsement that she got there because she had earned it through thinking positively or whatever. So
right. And I want to say something about that. I really get a sense of a kind of pyramid scheme with the law of attraction and The Secret. And certainly you have these people at the top who are successful, and then they have all of the people below them, the underlings and the acolytes and the followers who never get that kind of success. But absolutely, I mean, the people who were speaking in this movie were already incredibly successful and seem to have adopted that, for the most part, to have adopted those theories, I think, after they'd already had their success. And so they weren't successful because of those theories.
So well, I was a bit of hits and misses. You know, they were looking at all the things that could fall within this, and then forgetting about the other stuff. Like, I worked my ass off to get here. So yeah, it was a real hits and misses kind of thing. But should we talk about what The Secret is?
Yeah, yeah. I was surprised, by the way, that they just quickly changed from calling it The Secret to naming it for what they call it. But I don't want to spoil that. So, what is The Secret?
What is The Secret, Matt?
Well, The Secret is give me your money, and I will show you how I get richer. Is basically it. It's something called the law of attraction. Now the thing is you know, we're going to be bagging on this movie a lot throughout, but this is one of those kind of things. The great philosopher Sylvia Browne had once said, you know, take what you like and leave the rest behind, which is a really terrible way to live your life in a lot of ways. But there's sometimes that's a great way to live your life. And when it comes to this movie, there's a lot of truths in the movie, but it's a little bit like The Exorcist, where the demon will intertwine lies with the truth to attack you. And they do that really well in this. So this movie's very demonic in that sense. But there are a lot of really good positive things stated in the movie, and some things that are true, and some things that are completely blatantly false. So yeah, it's the movie is basically positive thinking, is what the movie is.
Or whatever you think, whatever you think manifests. So if you're not thinking positively, that's on you.
It's going back to the thought forms.
A lot of victim blaming, but yeah. So this goes back to the idea of New Thought, which was a movement which came out in the 19th century. So based on a lot of authors and philosophers and thinkers at the time. So like
so not so new.
Madame Blavatsky, yeah, and other characters too. Like Wallace Wattles, his book, the 1910 book, The Science of Getting Rich. Apparently that inspired Rhonda Byrne to make this film and to write the book as well. But I mean, there are a whole bunch of books like Thoughts of Things, the Prentice Mulford book, that's 1908. So I mean, there's nothing new about it. It's really been around for a long time and comes from the spiritualism movement. But I mean, you've just got a ton of other books. I think, like you were earlier talking about some of the other titles that have inspired this.
The one that really struck me was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is not all that it seems to be. He's very well respected in the sort of self-help movement world, but a lot of his book is like, there's a secret in this book, and he doesn't tell you what it is. And if you listen to the whole book, he's like, it's hidden in there. You're supposed to try to figure out what the secret is. But a lot of that book is about have a plan, focus on the plan, write it down, think about it all the time. Pause. It's like, well, live it, but it's like, and then you've heard people say, fake it till you make it. And it's terrible, because part of this stuff is actually part of how you get things done. You make a plan and you work towards it. But there's the part that was always left out, the part where you work for it. It's like, it's not thinking about it. No, the universe will send it to you. Yeah. I mean, if you are out there and like make connections and succeed, it sure feels like the universe sent it to
If
you.
you're born into
But then
privilege as well.
also, and it's like, but if you do all those things and it doesn't come to you, is that because you didn't want it bad enough? You know,
Yeah. Well,
that's
yeah. A thing that really irritated us in watching the movie. I mean, I saw it originally around the time that it came out, so maybe about 2008, 2009, and so we revisited it again. And it was really irritating to us, all of the shots that they kept having of people in third world countries and people living in poverty, and we were trying to figure out what the meaning was of that, whether that was supposed to be inspirational. Matt, you want to comment on that further?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough because they would show it. Every single one of us has the exact same amount of power as anybody else, and you're born with all of that God-given power. And then they would show
And there's
this
enough abundance for
starving
everyone.
child, but the starving child happened to be smiling at that moment. So it's like, oh, this child has the power to overcome anything. So that must mean I do too. I don't know. It was just I thought it was lame. It was pandering. It was pathetic. I did not. I didn't like the way they. Rhonda Byrne did not respect her audience one bit in this movie.
it seemed like a film that was designed to make wealthy people feel good about their wealth and poor people try to figure out what else they can do to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
if you look at the sort of, I don't want to turn this into a big socioeconomic thing. We live in very wealthy parts of the world, or we live in a wealthy country. But even in our country, there's poverty, and even in our country, there's
Absolutely.
people who have an absurdly concentrated form of wealth. That
Mm-hmm.
so that,
Mhm.
and they make the claim that there's plenty for everybody,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I really don't like the fact that the inverse of it, if it's true that
Mhm.
what you think and manifest comes true, then it basically blames everybody's bad situation on themselves. Now it
Mm-hmm.
takes a
Yeah.
terrible
Yeah.
turn when it gets into healthcare later in the movie, but I don't want to get to that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say, just in all the years that I've been doing research into pseudoscience and different claims, I've done a lot of work into NLP, so neuro linguistic programming, which doesn't have anything to do with linguistics, but is a kind of subset theory of the new thought. And I remember doing an investigation into this topic maybe about 20 years ago, and seeing this guy was paid for by an organization I was working for at the time. It was about $500. But when I called to make the initial appointment, I said, how much for this consultation? And he said $500. And I said, well, I don't have $500. He said, well, if you want to help yourself, then you'll find that $500. And so you see a lot of that in this movie, in The Secret, this kind of victim blaming. Matt's had some experiences with this too. You want to tell us about that
Well,
conference that you went to?
Yeah, I went to one of these seminars, and the guy's standing up there going, my program works so well, so perfectly. Money back guarantee, but I'm so confident that you're going to make your money back on this. And it's like, if you don't have the money for this $500, if somebody offered you a new Lamborghini for $500 and gave you 24 hours to find it, you'd find it, wouldn't you? And I raised
Like
my
the
hand.
comparison.
Yeah, yeah. So I raised my hand. And I'm like, so you feel 100% that if I take your course, I will make this money back and then some? And he's like, absolutely. And I'm like, could I borrow $500? I can pay you back just as soon as I make this money you say I'm going to make. And he's like, no, it doesn't work that way. And I'm like, but you just said it did work that way. And
Nice.
if you don't believe in me, believe that I can do it, then why am I gonna risk my own $500 on this? And about that time, about 5 or 6 people got up and started walking out, and he couldn't do anything to save saved the thing after that. So I destroyed it pretty well.
I think that maybe wasn't a Lamborghini; it was a Scamborghini.
Gosh.
No, nicely played though. That sounds great.
Yeah. Well, I think you were about 18 at the time.
I was about 18. It was the first thing like this I had ever seen, and I was just thinking, well, logically, shouldn't this? It's amazing how when you have less experience in the world, you can actually be more logical about things. Right.
You're not
learn a few things
by
and you
all
think
your
you know
learning.
it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should talk a little bit more about the people who are in the movie. And sure. I think it's interesting that, we can talk about this a bit later, that kind of appeal to science and invoking scientific terms. But I think it's interesting how they include all of these quotes from these famous figures and make it seem like they knew the secret, that they lived by the secret, and that's why they had their success. And we're talking Beethoven, we're talking Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill. I didn't do research. I wonder about some of the quotes. They sound like the kinds of quotes that are well, the context taken out of context, but also maybe misattributed as well, or attributed to lots of different people. But they have a number of gurus that they interviewed for this movie, and they call them teachers of the secret. So they give you this impression too at the start that this is something that people have tried to suppress. The powers that be have tried to prevent people from getting access, of the common person to getting access to this kind of information. But yeah, they have a number of these gurus, and I think some of them are very famous. We're talking about like Bob Proctor, and Jack Canfield, and James Arthur Ray, and some of them I think are a little less known.
What was Gray? What was his name?
Oh, John Gray.
John Gray.
Men are from Mars. Women are from Venus. He only appears a few times, and then they've even got like a feng shui expert on there.
And she's for being a feng shui expert or consultant or whatever she was. There wasn't much in what she said, I thought, that had anything to do with feng shui, and I didn't really know.
You should talk about her claim or her story as an example to illustrate the secret.
Oh, so
you remember it?
Yes. She's having this, I guess, session and this consultation with this guy who's a painter, and she's like, so how's your love life? Because that's always something you ask in a consultation when you're not yourself interested in the person.
Need a water feature over here, and how's your love life?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just not going that well. And
I like 3 ladies a week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was.
That's his goal.
He was terrible. He was a terrible guy. He really was. But yeah, she's like, well, I'm not surprised it's bad. All these paintings you have on your wall is a woman looking away from you. So, what do you want? He's like, 3 women a week. I'm going to be getting down there. Paint it, she says. So he starts painting himself with 3 women and have holes everywhere. And then she sees him again. Usually the time frames on these is 1 month. And so how's it going? Oh yeah, the ladies are just throwing it at me. It's great. I love it. And it's just.
Oh, but then now
you want to get married. They go back to painting one woman.
He wanted, exactly. Yeah, he wanted true love, and so he found that within a year. And I thought it was weird the way that they
still want the 3 women,
too.
but I want one of them that I could love. But the other 3, keep them there.
He doesn't know about the others. Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
That'll be our secret.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the real secret. But it just seemed like when it comes to being socially acceptable, there were a few things in the movie that they didn't think about. And I think that was one of them, kind of really promoting. There's a lot of, I guess you could say, privilege being thrown around and, self-absorption.
I just want to read a quick quote. You've reminded me of, there's been a lot of criticism for the movie too. We're talking about this as though everyone gets into it and everyone believes in it. And that's just not the case.
There's criticisms.
lots of skeptics about this, but the Mark Manson, the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, so he had harsh criticism for this movie. He says that, and the book as well, saying that it's full of misplaced cliches, silly quotes, and superstitious drivel, and calls it a playbook for entitlement and self-absorption, which anyone who reads it and implements its advice will likely make themselves worse off in the long run. But I mean, I really did get that sense of entitlement with all of these people.
I mean, if you're only, and I didn't hear anything about charity or altruism or anything like that,
humanitarianism.
Right? So it's a guidebook for narcissism.
Very small piece in there about it, very small. But it's a little bit like, I want to give back, so I'm going to teach these classes and charge $500 a piece.
Well,
but yeah, there was a small little thing, it's like, oh, and you need to spread this around. Move on.
Well,
it's
like when they get to the healthcare stuff, there's a whole thing on healthcare, and there's a one person. I mean, keep taking your medicine, but everybody else is like, visualize it and the placebo effect, and if you get sick, that's because of your negative attitude and because of stress. All disease is stress. I'm like, all disease is stress, really? So the germ theory of medicine, that's just
what about victims of active shooters?
Yeah, well, you gotta watch that stress, man. It'll get you. So
yeah, it'll show up with AK-47.
Yeah, certainly what bugged us in watching the movie, just hearing about that constant, you're attracting everything in your life, whether it's negative or whether it's positive. And we know with Matt's reference there that this is just absolutely not true. There are accidents, there are perpetrators and things that happen. You're not bringing it upon yourself, and no one should have to put that on themselves.
Yeah, and I think how do you falsify this claim? Like, I mean, if you're successful, then obviously you were doing it right, and if you're not successful, you didn't want it bad enough. That, to me, this is almost like this, like, I support this team and you support that team, and we're both going to pray for the team to win and let God sort it out. Right? At what point does skill and work come into play, and luck? When does luck come into play? There's no chance in this. Like, there's no mystery or statistical. I mean, if you believe it, it will come true according to them. And they, let me be clear, they don't put limits on that. Anything you believe will come true. You'll just try. You just got to believe. If that's
in other words, pigs can fly if they believe.
Well, yeah, but I mean, how many 16 to 18-year-old boys, who are thinking about women all the time, being with women, and it doesn't happen to them, and they have to wait until they're much older to lose their virginity. And this is just hypothetical.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think Matt should probably talk a little bit about his personal experiences here, because
no.
Well, no, not with that.
I lost my virginity.
In terms of The Secret, and in terms of The Secret and the law of attraction, Matt was a believer. I think I came to all of this kind of thing, with skepticism. I was skeptical even when I was really young, but Matt had this drive to believe.
Well, I wanted to believe.
Well, it's seductively
it's
plausible.
Attractive. Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, and I just really quickly want to throw in here before I get into this too much, that Karen and we decided that we're going to give The Secret an honest try. So last night we visualized a parking spot at Starbucks that we wanted to park at. Right outside the front door. We were going to get that. We were both going to put our energy into it, play it out in our brains so we could see it happening. And we ended up not going to Starbucks. We went to a different coffee shop. So,
did you find a parking spot?
There was no one else there, actually.
We were the only one in the parking lot, so we had no problem. Yeah, Blake, you got it. Yeah. I mean, again, The Secret wins. So no, there was a lot of people when this came out around me that were very big into it, and I really wanted to believe, but I guess I was a little bit of a scaliever, in the sense that some of the things that were said would just not really work for me. And I can give some examples of that in a minute. But I had a friend who, or I'd say more of a colleague, that she believed so much in the idea that you don't pay attention to debt. You don't pay attention to what's actually in your bank account. You imagine a lot more, and you stop paying attention to the reality.
You're like a government. What?
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And so she started just spending money, picking up the tab, and doing all this stuff. And she blew through every bit of savings she had. She was, checks were bouncing left and right, and she really got herself into a lot of trouble. And believe me, I watched. She believed 100% that this was going to work.
So this featured a lot into the movie, where you had a number of different speakers, including the Australian financier, who was talking about receiving lots of bills in the mail. I mean, as we all do, and that he started visualizing receiving checks instead, and that started to happen. And I think it's ironic because that guy, I'm trying to think of his name, I've got it written down here, David Sherman, I think it is. So he's kind of referred to as an investment guru, but he's had his business activities under investigation by the Australian Securities Investment Commission since this movie came out. And he was also sued by one of the other interviewees, by Bob Proctor. His company sued him repeatedly for some business dealings that they had that turned sour. So I guess that the secret didn't really work ultimately for him.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, because supposedly the law of attraction doesn't look at whether you're good or evil, whether you're thinking positive thoughts or negative thoughts. It's just doing whatever. It's somehow focusing on you. And
yeah. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No, you got a thought? Pop it on in there.
Well, I do. It just reminds me.
A positive thought?
It is a positive. Well, I'm positive I've seen some of this before, because something that's grown up a lot during my lifetime, and it may have existed before, but I definitely started noticing it in the 80s, and it's just gotten bigger with some of the mega churches, is this idea of the prosperity gospel, which, except for the difference is saying God instead of the universe, it's a lot the same. It's the name it and claim it, that we're going to, like, you're going to get your treasures here. You don't have to wait till heaven. You can just have whatever you want now, and that's, I mean, it's a scam. I mean, it's a scam. It's a scam. When you look at where that money's going, people are like, well, I'll just keep paying my tithes, because tithing is basically like an investment myself, It's like, or put that money into an IRA, get you some interest, whatever, It's like, which one's
it can either come back to you
back?
Tenfold, or you can just get a percentage.
Or at 3.5, but over amortized, so.
But speaking about the whole positive thoughts thing, so there's Michael Beckwith is one of the speakers, and I think it's interesting that he's listed as a visionary.
Visionary, yeah. And, well, you got a lot of interesting things here with Bob Proctor and Michael Beckwith especially. They really come off like televangelists.
Absolutely.
And they really have that thing about them. And we're talking about how the secret is so old. I mean, in the beginning, the first version of The Secret that I saw, they talked about it coming from something called the Emerald Tablets, and I don't think the version we watched last night said that.
No,
but yeah, that's the origin, is the Emerald Tablets.
And the Rosicrucian Society.
Exactly, it comes back. But the Bible, we got Matthew 7:7, which is that ask and it shall be given, and seek and ye shall find, and knock and it shall be open for you.
Yep.
I mean, that is that's the law of attraction right there. I mean, and James Arthur Ray was saying, describe energy. Well, it can neither be created nor destroyed, and blah blah blah. It's always in transmutation and blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. Now describe God. Oh well, it can't be created or destroyed, and it's always been there, and blah blah. So it doesesn't matter whether you call it God or call it energy. You name it whatever you want. This is
that's
it.
the New Age God.
Yeah.
We should talk about the application.
Getting told. Well,
we should talk about the application of The Secret, because you referred to the quote from the book of Matthew. So they do talk in the book, obviously, and the movie about the 3 steps. That's the creative process to achieve all of the things that you want. And it's very simple. So 3 steps. The first one is ask, what do you really want? And 2, believe, see the things you want as already yours. And 3, receive. This is a feeling universe, whatever that means. But certainly this does go back to the Bible. Yeah, and all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. So you've just got all these different references.
Those 3 steps and I think are always there.
Yeah, certainly does play out into the new thought as well. But yeah, I mean, I was going to talk earlier about the positive thoughts, and with Michael Beckwith, some of the quotes I think are just really absolutely quotable. But one of the things that he says is that a positive thought is 100 times more powerful than a negative thought.
Yes. They also said that you only use 5% of your brain.
Yeah.
They do, yeah. They scalp a lot of those chestnuts.
Yeah, Michael Beckwith started that statement with "science tells us."
Yes.
Right.
Yes, they did.
I have not seen that study.
No. Yeah.
So yeah, they do invoke science a lot, and they use a lot of scientific terms like quantum and physics, and talking about
very quantum.
Yeah. Talking about vibration and energy.
I mean, what was that other quote other than the 5% of the brain? There was another great number quote that it's like, oh, how'd they get that number? 60 times something. I can't remember what it was. Do you remember? Because I know.
Oh yeah, research shows that we have 60,000 thoughts per day.
There we go.
Wow.
Research shows. And where is that research?
I don't know, but
references,
50,000 of those are like, am I going to Taco Bell? Am I going to Taco Bell? Am I getting Taco Bell?
And then from there, I think of that old Onion clip about how Taco Bell's going green by not having anything from the Earth in their food.
You won't see any changes in the menu, right? Exactly. That's like, I did. Now we've mentioned here that it's tied to the New Thought movement. Obviously, it's tied to this theosophy and spiritualism, prosperity gospel. I also want to mention paganism and chaos magic, because they also use the idea of focusing your will to achieve your goals. And so like in sigil magic, you would write down the idea, you would like condense it into a single sigil, and you'd focus on it. There's a lot of different variants on how that works, but a lot of this still comes down to concentrating on the thing you want. And if you just stop there, it's bullshit. But if you just go a little further and then figure out how to get the thing you want through work, then you're actually just talking about having a plan and executing on it. So it's like you're doing just the first part, and then they're claiming that if you get success, then it was because it was meant to be, because you had the right way of thinking about it. But anybody who succeeds, unless they win the lottery or somebody dies and gives them money or something, like, you're not achieving these things because they just happen. You're achieving them because you work. If it's given to you, this is a great philosophy, because it feels like you earned it through your hard thinking. A
lot of coincidence at play here.
Yeah, so we got 2 others I'm going to throw in there. Wicca has a similar thing, and Satanism, the Anton LaVey.
The Anton LaVey,
I think all the sympathetic magic and like attracts like, and just kind of simple rituals and ceremonies and things like that, I think are comparable to the affirmations and the positive thinking and the visualization. And Matt, you were speaking about dream boards. I didn't know too much about that, but you said that you had one.
Dream board, vision boards. And the thing about them is, I started to spell mine BORED. Because nothing was happening.
Chairman of the board.
But so old Norm Macdonald reference.
The movie where you had one of the speakers was talking about how he was had moved house, and his 5-year-old came into the room and said, "What's in this box, Daddy?" And he's got a lot of boxes everywhere, and he opens it up and he goes through it, and he sees his dream board in there. And he pulls it out, and he sees a picture that he has on this dream board of a house. and he starts crying because he realizes that the house he just bought, the house he is in, and he's been renovating, I think, for a few years, that is the house of his dreams, that he'd posted a picture of this house on this board. House. And I thought, how disconnected could you possibly be?
And this is the point, because like you're supposed to be connected. You're supposed to put all your energy into that picture. And yet he forgot what this house that he put so much energy into looked like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird story.
Like that. And, yeah, and of course they're talking about things like you should go and visit houses that are for sale, that you in the kind of the style that you want to be accustomed to attract that into your life, or go and test drive a vehicle. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, Tony Robbins is not in this. It certainly
he's not, but,
a lot of Tony Robbins.
But he is.
His presence is still there.
Tony, when I was younger, I read Notes to a Friend, which I found very influential. And some of the advice in there is very practical. And again, it comes down to, I want to do a thing, make a list of the things you need to do to accomplish that, and then go do those things. And behold, it's been accomplished. And that's not magic, right? But he is also into NLP and lots of other things. And in one of his books, he talks about like moving into a castle. Like, they didn't have the money, but they just went ahead and got it anyway because they believed it would happen, you know. And it's like, well, that's also a good way to get into this other thing we call bankruptcy. So it's also super easy to get into.
Especially if you focus on it.
Yeah, but he did the same thing. He's selling to people who are poor and aspire to do better, but he's selling them these outrageously overpriced cassette tapes, and I'm sure now it's digital or whatever. But I mean, it used to be, I knew people who got into his program and had like monthly fees, like for getting new material, and like they bought the tape set, and like, you know, they never became rich from that. And it's not because they didn't want it, it's because none of the things in those tapes made them a real plan. Like, not like it was aspirational, feely good stuff, but not practical. Here's how to earn money, you know.
It's very reductionist, very simplistic.
I did
there he is.
Go and attend some James Arthur Ray stuff, and you know,
we'll
did
just
Warrior
talk for a minute about how
Weekend
expensive that was.
Oh, I can't even remember, but it was a lot of money. It was really a lot of money.
Well, from memory, you'd said it was over $1,000 per person, and we're talking about
but that's
20 years ago.
That's not purchasing the other stuff either. But
all the merchandise.
And you're really pushed to do it. But yeah, you got to take all these notes, and on the first page, you know, it's on the first page, it's like what I choose for my life, and then you got to fill in this thing. What I choose to receive from this weekend, as I fill that in. What I'm willing to invest. So you got to make sure you put a good number in there. And then what I commit to doing this weekend, and we were told what to write in these, but it had to be in our handwriting. And it says, I commit to trust James Arthur Ray.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
So on the first
cult-like.
page, yes, on the first page, you're committing to that. And I got a lot to say about these things. But I can say one thing, you know, I got into the $1 million mindset here and started reading it. And it has,
that's
you know,
kind of cheaply made.
I was going to say, hey, don't knock Kinko's.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what
company.
Yeah, but you know, if you charge like a 2,000% markup on what you paid Kinko's, you can get by. So, and this came with you know, a DVD thing, and after reading a little bit of this, I never bothered opening this. So it just did not happen.
Get a good price for that on eBay.
On eBay. Or if any of our viewers would like to purchase these from me, this is $4,000. If you answer in the next 15 minutes, I'll bring it down to $39.95.
Wow.
Set of steak knives as well.
And that is how he did. That's how he did.
Those are mistake knives. Yeah.
Yes, mistake knives. But James Arthur Ray was. I don't even know if I want to get in him just yet, because I know we have a few things to say about him.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a crazy thing. When they first did The Secret, like I said, they had a different version originally. And in that original version, they had also Abraham Hicks. And Blake, are you familiar at all with Abraham Hicks?
No, I live amongst many Hicks and see them at many of my family reunions and that sort of thing.
Not that kind of Hicks.
Overall,
Hicks, it's a bit of a yeah, good one. I see what you did there. Esther Hicks is a bit like Jay-Z Knight. She channels this sort of collective of spirits.
Welcome. What's
exactly? Named Abraham. So she channels Abraham.
Oh, she's the Abraham. I kept saying Abraham Ministries. I didn't know what the heck that was.
Yeah. So Abraham is interesting because, like I said, I've attended both Abraham Hicks things and James Arthur Ray things. James Arthur Ray is as he's come to prove, a dangerous person.
Yeah.
He's very dangerous. And and I saw that in him very early on. Getting to see him in person. He's very convincing in The Secret. And he's very charismatic, and you're kind of like, I want to follow this guy. But in person, he is frightening. And I will tell you, one of the interesting things he did, and this part is interesting if you're more of a Beatles fan than a Rolling Stones fan. But years ago, we had a $1 million challenge at TAM, where we were challenging someone who believed in muscle testing, basically. It was
kinesiology.
Applied kinesiology. And we were able to show that it doesn't work. But James Arthur Ray, he would bring people up on stage, and he wanted to prove that the Beatles were good and the Rolling Stones were evil, and they were bad energy. So he would bring people up on stage and then have this CD covered up and have them hold it and then muscle test them. And every time they were strong, it was the Beatles. And every time their arm went down, it was the Rolling Stones. And
it's just nonsensical.
I paid $1,000 for this because at that point I already knew that applied kinesiology was a load of crap. And I knew that even if it wasn't a load of crap, you're not going to be able to use it on a CD. It just doesn't work that way. But,
why don't you tell everyone about your encounter with him? I thought that was strange.
Yeah. So after one of the sessions, and of course, he's very forceful in a lot of the things that he wants you to do to push you out of your comfort zone. And breaking boards is one of them. And he will not take no for an answer. If you're like, I've got a problem with my hand, I can't do it. No, he will force you to do it. And I know that he's had a couple of people, sue him for injuries during this part. And there was a woman at the session that I was in that broke her hand as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's still not the worst thing that can happen to you if you're following James Arthur Ray.
Yeah, we'll get to that shortly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's
sadly
coming. It's coming. But no, after
complaints will
one
be
of these
lodged.
sessions.
Yep.
Split lodged. Yeah. Boy.
Oh. So, I go up to him like in between events, and I'm trying to talk to him, and I'm saying, are you going to get more of these books in because you're out of these ones? Or I can't remember what the question was, but he looked at me and he's like this, and then he just starts going,
wow.
And then he walked away.
Like he was like a meme gif in real life.
Yeah, but there was like nothing there. Yeah. I don't know
Jack
what
Torrance at the bar. Right?
Yeah,
it was creepy,
absolutely terrifying to see him.
Yeah,
like
I mean, it seems like he's very robotic, and that once he was off his script, he didn't know what to say,
or he was visualizing you not watching it, or not following him. It's like,
yeah, he was visualizing me going away.
Yeah,
and you know what? It worked.
Yeah.
So again,
That's
you can't disprove the law of attraction when it comes to this kind of thing. But yeah, I could not cope with any more of his stuff. And I had read, I was having problems because I had read, he's got a book called Practical Spirituality. And I read this book, and it was the most egotistical, snarky, a load of crap you've ever read, and a lot of victim blaming. But he would literally just insult people, people that are in big religions are idiots, and they're all fat and worthless. And he just was really, I am great. I am great. I am wonderful. And for him to have to write that down so many times makes me think he might have a problem.
He's definitely got some control issues. If you go and look at things that he's posting today on Instagram, he's definitely got an ego and some control issues. But I think we should talk about the incident in 2009 with the sweat lodge.
So this is where I knew him from. Yeah.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people.
No. I just remember this being in the news. I didn't know it was even connected to this movie. But I definitely remember this happening. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Karen.
But yeah, it was an incident. So I believe it was in Arizona, and he had a number of people who were attending this, and I think it's a kind of an appropriation too of indigenous people and their practices and ceremonies. So he didn't know what he was doing, but he had a number of people who were, I guess, in this room or a tent, and some of them were wanting to leave because they were feeling heat exhaustion and couldn't breathe and were having problems, and he would not let anyone leave. And strangely enough, this happened to me at a Bikram yoga session that I went to once. There was an instructor, and it was the first time I was doing it. It was on a particularly hot day in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I'm doing this yoga, and I felt like I'm going to pass out. So I said to the instructor, I'm going to pass out. I want to leave. And he said, no, you won't leave. You're going to stay here. You're going to work through this. And I was like, F you. And I left. Never went back. But you can imagine these people, I mean, these followers too, when they've gone through brainwashing of the type that Matt's talking about, having to write down information about how they trust him and he is going to do what he wants them to do. You can see how people get manipulated into thinking, well, I'm just going to trust him. I'm going to get through this through meditation or through whatever processes we go through. He's done this. So, I mean, this is just a terrifying thing.
I have to trust him.
But it basically resulted in 18 people being injured. They were in need of hospitalization due to burns and dehydration, kidney failure, breathing problems, and heat exhaustion as well. And 3 people died. So it was a terrible tragedy. And he was, I think, arrested in 2010, and then in 2011 he was convicted, found guilty of negligent homicide in the deaths of those 3 people. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison. I don't think he spent that entire time.
He didn't, and he should have been sentenced a lot more. Had it been someone else, they would have gotten a lot more time, and they wouldn't have gotten out.
It's almost like being wealthy is somehow beneficial. I don't. It's really odd. Like
no, he sat in jail and he visualized himself
not
being in free. But no, he did give a very sensitive statement that I think turned a lot of people around. He said, "Now this is not self-absorbed at all." He said it had to happen because it was the only way that I could experience and learn and grow through the things I've done. You come out of a situation like this and you're either bitter and angry or dead, or you're more awake and grateful. And I chose awake and grateful.
Sorry. Let me redo that. I messed you up on the end there. Sorry.
Oh, okay. You come out of a situation like this and you're either bitter and angry, or you're more awake and grateful. And I chose awake and grateful. And I chose to see it as a test of character and a test through fire. And I think I did okay. Those people that died,
okay. The
people that died, they weren't listening to me. They didn't do what I said.
That's just unbelievable. I mean, talk about control issues and ego. But yeah, his latest book is the Book of Redemption.
Sweat It with James Arthur Ray? No.
But the Book of Redemption. So in 2018. Well, so he's really playing that whole redemption.
I was about to say, if you need a redemption narrative, why not write it yourself?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But yeah, he didn't learn anything, and how dare he make this all about him when people died and people were injured. But it was all a lesson for him. I mean, how egotistical. But that, I think, really is a good analogy for The Secret and for the people interviewed for The Secret, and people in general who follow the tenets of the law of attraction. It's really all about them. I mean, it's, I had to say, watching it too, I thought this is in many ways painfully American or painfully capitalist or first world to watch this, and it's just all about me, and that you wouldn't have this kind of thinking in collectivist countries, in China or in Korea. You wouldn't have people, I would think, for the most part anyway,
well, I mean, can you imagine
this kind of thing?
Right. What would the humanist secret look like? If we believe it together, we can make it happen. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, like, it's, we live in a society that's extremely individualistic,
Yes.
to the point that it may be breaking down the ties that hold us together. And I think
it's all about self-reliance and the individual and me. But it's pretty sickening. I think by the end of the movie, I was feeling pretty nauseous about these people and their egos, and just all the claims that they were making.
Okay, James Arthur Ray said, you come out of a situation like this, you're either bitter and angry, or you're more awake and grateful. And Karen, you chose bitter and angry.
Yeah. Well, I'm a skeptic, right? So we're cynical.
We're always
bitter
cynical,
and
angry, and bitter. That's how we are. So
it's a big, rough thing. But like I said, the movie started out in its original form with Abraham Hicks being a part of it, and then some big.
Well, here's an interesting thing. They were the only paid contributors. No one else was paid for their performance. Just Abraham Hicks, and then they're removed.
So
Oh, they got paid.
Yeah.
But absolutely.
Promotion.
I mean, what was it? We were looking at, James Arthur Ray was huge after this. I mean, it really just launched him. And we were looking at his, I believe his Twitter earlier, and he has like 150 followers or something. I mean, it's
like 1,000 followers on Instagram.
Followers. It was Bob Doyle that has the 100 and something followers now. So it's things have dropped considerably, but the law of attraction has always been around, and it will always be around. So there's not much we can do to stop it, because there's too many things in it that are true. And the things that are wrong are what the shysters are going to continue to push forever.
Yeah, I think in the way that Rhonda Byrne reinvented this or rebranded this, I'm sure it's going to come out again. I mean, she's continued to write other books. What has she got? She wrote The Power in 2010, and then she wrote The Magic in 2012, and then How the Secret Changed My Life in 2016. And then there's the movie The Secret Dare to Dream, which came out in 2020. It was a good year for that, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's more a kind of fictional adaptation of The Secret.
Yeah, which I don't think works as well. You have a little bit of what was it? Another good person that I think was a little bit of a believer in The Secret would be Will Smith, and you can see he's really come out on top. But his movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, there was a lot of that same kind of thing. You cannot let go of the belief that you're going to make it. And while there is a certain amount of it that is true, your circumstances that you're stuck in, sometimes you can't so easily get out, from underneath them. And I think that story was a rare one of success. So it should be The Secret. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, well,
we didn't talk about, what this thing needs, though? I mean, because we've covered a lot of stuff here, but what it needs is, how can we tie this to quantum? Because I want to make sure we don't miss that, because that's super important.
I was thinking we'd say that to the law of attraction thing we're doing tomorrow, because it's live.
Okay.
And because I got a lot to say on that too.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
But and there's a lot more personal experience and stuff that I've had with this law of attraction. And of course, did you look into the other laws of the universe that are with the law of attraction?
No, that's the thing. I think I think a lot of people forget about
laws.
that. Yeah. I think people think it's the law of attraction, but you're right. There are 12 tenets, 12 laws.
Is this all from the Emerald Tablets?
Yes. This Emerald Tablet right here has them.
Yeah.
But that's. I think it comes from a couple of different belief systems, but yeah, there's laws of the universe, and but you're right, Blake. I want to talk about these physicists that are touting this, and then having people like Michael Beckwith and those kind of guys, all talking about the metaphysical aspect of it, but then calling on science constantly.
Talking about studies and talking about research, but not referencing anything. I mean, there was no references there.
Yeah. So and also the whole thing seems, again, it's kind of a tautology. It's unfalsifiable. It's, I think, not particularly altruistic or friendly, and it's easy to call it BS. But that's only because it is.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. There's no secret there.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Beckwith and we have the same degree.
Really?
Yeah, doctorate in divinity. Yeah, I am a DD as well, so I can go toe to toe with him, no problem.
Nice.
But I have the added benefit of being a hypnotherapist, so I can convince him that.
You could stick more letters behind your name.
Yeah. I do have that going.
I think Matt spent a lot of time kind of replicating a lot of qualifications and learning that a lot of these people have to be able to have some insight into it. I think it's important. Often as skeptics, we just are armchair skeptics and kind of pontificate about things without knowing about them. And
it's true.
I have a lot of embarrassing credentials.
It struck me, and I almost did it.
Will Smith?
No, the idea behind, like, we had the same call as we had today, except I did it with a white sheet behind me with the wind blowing on it, and then I wore a big ankh around my neck and just a white robe. And it's like, that's all you need to do to be a guru. It's like, it's 90% appearance. Or I should say it's probably 80%. And then 20% talk, right? So
it's the gift of the gab, and I mean, these people are that's one thing we have to give them. They're very articulate, they're very persuasive. I mean, they are just very appealing personality types. The way that they can just get up on stage and talk about these kinds of things, they're charismatic, and I think that's what really aligns them to televangelists.
Yeah. Well, here's another secret: if you tell people what they want to hear, they'll like it. Ta-da! It's like,
I
mean, I have to say, this whole thing is, as much as I say it's BS, it would be a great training program for a salesperson, because it's showing you how to tell people that they can have what they want if they just whatever that is. And if is your product, well, then you've helped close a deal. It's lying. If you've got any kind of ethics, you may have a problem with it. But if you can convince yourself that your product really does what I mean, I know plenty of people who would have these same kind of spiels over soap, I mean, like just over whatever. So.
Well, and that's how it has been used. Those DVDs have been used in training and marketing. Absolutely, because there's a kind of inspirational element to them. You watch the movie and it kind of fires you up. So even watching it as a skeptic, it's like, well, it can be pretty positive to have positive thoughts and to think positively. That's a good thing to do, and it's not a good thing to be negative all the time and to be cynical. Yeah. So absolutely, as Matt was talking about, there are these kinds of grains of truth, and it's enough to make the rest of it seem plausible for many people.
Yeah. Should we wind up with some closing thoughts?
Well, I want to say that, looking through these other laws, which I was going through a few of them here. One of the laws that I think is closer to what the law of attraction is supposed to be is the law of cause and effect. And that, that's in here.
That's the reality, the cause and effect.
Cause and effect. But it's interesting because one of the things he puts forth in here is it is more important to be enthusiastic about something than to have actual skill. So,
Wow, and that's how you get to be a talking head on TV.
That's how you get to be a pilot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's always the case, but yeah, I mean, those laws are rehashed. I mean, they're not necessarily, they're not coming from him. I mean, that's people have written about that a lot more than him, but it's all rehashed, and I think that's my view of the movie overall. That it is.
Are you a spiritual guru? No, but I slept at Holiday Inn Express, so.
Everything old is new again. You know, it's not new thought. It's it's the same thing, just being rebranded, rehashed. That's been written about for over 100 years, but certainly talked about for longer.
Yeah, right. I just it breaks my heart that people fall for this and get into these sort of, I guess even just watching the movie's fine, but it's not like, if you watch the movie, it's just going to entice you to like try to learn how to better manipulate the law of attraction, and the only way to do that is to buy more products, right? I mean, that's the unspoken sales pitch here.
Yep.
And I think what the sales pitch you really need to get from this is, it is important to have a vision if you have a future in mind. It is important. It's also important to figure out how to take steps to make that vision happen. And also, this is pretty important to realize when a vision's impossible. And because if you
reality is missing from this movie. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's like I'm not going to sprout wings, and it's not because I don't have the vision for it. It's because it's just simply not how reality works. Right. So you need to know your limitations, and you need to figure out how to achieve your goals without if you want to use magic too, but with action. Take action, so if you want to augment that with magic, that's on you, but if you really want to succeed, you need to take some action. So
well, it's interesting as I'm looking through this James Arthur Ray stuff, I noticed there are some things in here that seem to be an absolute complete plagiarism from Robert.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Robert B. Cialdini, who wrote Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, which is a fantastic book. But I'm seeing some real plagiarism here that I might let Mr. Cialdini know about. But
all right.
Anyway, on that note, anyone got any more comments about this?
I can't tell you. It's a secret.
Yeah.
No.
Is it worth watching?
No, I did like the genie. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, the genie was.
Yeah.
It wasn't Will Smith.
It was not. And then that was the only. I mean, that one in the special effect where they had the people with torches walking in front of the pyramid, which 2006 CGI, whatever. It was fun. I can't recommend this film. No.
Well, here's the problem. This film is a lot like playing with a Ouija board, in the sense that it's not real, it doesn't work, but it can still mess you up mentally. So it's just better to not do it, because if something happens when you're playing with a Ouija board, your mind's going to go in all the wrong places, and you can end up being a little scarred. The Secret can scar you.
Definitely can be very dangerous, as we can see with the James Arthur Ray situation.
Yeah, but at least he learned from it.
Didn't learn much, not the right things, but anyway. Well, thank you
everyone.
In case we get
sued, we'll have the law of retraction.
Yeah, it's a law, so it'll hold up in court. Go ahead, Karen, and talk us out.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of Based on a True Story. Please do like this episode and comments below. Also, do go back and watch our other episodes. We've got a lot more coming up in future months.
I'm visualizing our listeners and followers and subscribers supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/Monster Talk. I believe in it.
And I think a great experiment with the law of attraction for everybody watching to do is to really put your thoughts into us finally getting monetized on YouTube.
Yes, I think we need all of that energy.
I don't believe it hard enough.
But 30 days.
All
30
the vibrations.
All right.
Let's try this.
If we all believe in it hard enough and it doesn't come true in 30 days, we'll just
give up.
But yeah.
Oh yeah, give up. Give up.
Rely on Patreon.
All right.
So everybody, again, thanks, and thank you, Blake.
See you next time.
Take care.